Welcome to Rican Muslim. Your host is the Rican Muslim. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. Okay, so reasons why life in America has no future. So, yeah, let's find out what we're talking about.
Hey everybody, welcome back. We have our Circle K coffee and we're just going to hop right into it. Since I've been back in America, and honestly going back for years now, America has changed. It's no longer what it was when I was a kid. It's not the 90s America. It's not the 80s America. It's not even the 2000s America.
You know, I remember the 90s and the 80s and so on. People don't talk about other really big underlying things. You could say inflation per job on there, but there was rampant, racism. It was a lot more obvious. It's a lot stronger. My parents and myself had to go through all of it. So there's always certain people that say, "Oh, the glory days," but for who? Because there was a lot of. Well, let's just say it wasn't nice for a very big percentage of people, and having to, in a sense, segregate yourself from another group was pretty much the way to go. So, sure, money wise, you could say on there, but there were a lot more underlying things that were going on. And I think it was all eventually going to lead to this.
It's changed drastically, and some people say it's the start of the Iraq War. Some people will say it's, everything's been in decline since the 2008 recession. But in this video, I want to talk about 5 reasons why America is going to get worse. And I think that these are more qualitative reasons than just kind of something that can be measured, right? These are things that you sense when you're in America. And if you're a student of culture and history like I am, the things that are kind of standing out more and more these days. So I think the first thing on the list I really want to talk about is the collapse of family. It's because it's the cornerstone of community, not just nation, right? Not a country, but a community, even on a small scale. Within the family dynamic, within like your lifetime existing in a family, you go through so many experiences that are shared, whether it's biological things like having a kid, just being raised, but living with loved ones, watching them grow, watching them die. These experiences are things that connect us kind of through time and space. Things that have been happening for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And they connect us all, right? But especially within the community, because it's from the family and it's from the maintenance, the building, and the protection of a family that I think we originally developed concepts like honor, truth, duty, responsibility, trust, love. And I think if we're going to get deep about it, you can say it's the soil from which the soul grows. And good families, good familial bonds don't just make good citizens, but they make good people. So with the erosion of the family, with the destruction of a 2-parent household, that family bond, those family ties and responsibilities, they're fractured. And how can we expect to have good citizens coming up in new generations, or this generation, because it's been in slow, steady decline, kind of the focus on the single parent household. You're catering to the emotions of people, because we see single parent households and we see single parents and we feel bad for them. But the fact is, when we're looking at a nation, a country, a community, right, a family serves as a function. And when that function fails, it puts the whole system in detriment. And I think,
Yeah, but what's the foundation of this family? It was never founded on. They say they founded on principles. It's a funny word saying, "Oh, we took a little bit of the Bible, just a little bit, sprinkle some of that on there, and so on." But there's no real strong foundation of it. Especially with Christianity, there's thousands of denominations on it. Things are okay in one place, not okay on the other, and so on. They separated always, the spiritual, the scripture, whatever, their own religion, out of how to run the actual nation itself. So what did they expect? And every law and everything from how the welfare system was established to, making how do we extract more resources from our people and pay them less. That's why when the women entered the force, cut everything in half. So now you have double the amount of people, you pay it half. The whole country itself completely and utterly decided, you know what, we're just going to extract as much as we can out of them until the day they die. And everybody applauded it. Everybody did. They don't care. People on the top, all your leaders, all so on, none of them care. Ever they never did care and never will at all. It is run by the most greedy, satanic people you could ever meet, and they are the ones who who pretty much put all this in place. And everybody applauds them, and everybody tells you, "Oh, you need to aspire to be like them." How did they expect all this was going to end? And then you had the whole free sex movement and everything else on there, where it's just like, oh, okay, we need to extract now from our young women and so on. We need to make them into nothing more than appealing sex workers, pretty much. We need to use their bodies to sell more. And yeah, that's what we get. That is what we get. And that is what we're at now. That's just my opinion, anyways.
I think another one of the key identity points that we've lost in this country that I think is only going to get worse comes from the job market, right? Right now, we're in a job market crisis. People have jobs, people are working, so you can look at the employment rates and you can say, oh, these are up or these are steady. But the fact is, it's a bit of a cope because we all know that the economy is absolutely trash. We all know that people are struggling, right, to make enough just to survive. You know, that we're a country, we're a people that are in debt, right? Even at the highest levels of our government, the country itself, we are in an immense amount of debt. But when we think of our job market, when we think of things like the gig economy, the hustle culture, and the devaluation of the very concept of a career, I think this is still one of the great self-defining parts of our lives, which is our job, our career. You know, you're a fireman, you're a plumber, you know, you're a banker, a CEO, you know, you're a soldier. In lieu of that, now we have, you know, people who are in positions for such short term. And I think that that's the real problem. It's the lack of permanence that robs us of our identity. Because instead of saying that I am this thing, this is what I do, this is my profession, this is what my skill set is, because you don't have that anymore, you know, because when you start making too much money or asking for too much, you're usually replaced by somebody that's new. You know, the skill set requirements are kept low on purpose. You know, you can look at unions, you can look at apprenticeships, journeymen, you know, masters. You know, this is something that kind of used to exist within all careers, within all jobs, right? There was always a ladder that you can climb up, and now that ladder is very short, if it exists at all. And if it does exist, usually it's an illusion, because once you start getting close, the competitive nature of America is going to have people find a way to get you out of there and replace.
And that's another thing he mentioned. It was very surprised. It's like, oh, your job defines you, but when you are defined, when you define yourself as just a follower of Allah, when you define yourself as a follower of the Great High, and your purpose is to serve Him, and by serving Him, you serve your family. When that defines you, then all the stuff that he talks about, you know, becomes nonsense, becomes just white noise. That is the great thing about the great thing about Islam, and that is why the West is in such decline, because here that pretty much the thing that they worship is money. The thing that defines them is money on here. Yeah, they talk about debt and everything down. Yeah, because one of the great evils is what this quote Christian country pushes on you: usury, alcohol, gambling, um, corn is super, you know, rampant, sexual perversion. That's all they push on you, and they say that's socially acceptable, it's social norms, and it's okay. So everything that is meant to destroy you is what they want you to indulge upon. At the same time, extracting every little bit they can out of you until the day you die, because ultimately there's no fear of God, and they really don't care. People in power, people that have the money, actually don't have any empathy. They don't care. They're happy to see people starve and die. They're okay with that. It doesn't mean anything to them because, you know, people below them are not even people. They're just numbers on a spreadsheet. And that is what this country was slowly gearing up and going to, because there is no God foundation, true God foundation. It's what they call principles.
You with somebody who won't ask questions. It won't cause trouble, won't ask for anything. And I only see this really getting worse because since we've digitized jobs, we've made people more invisible, right? When we see ourselves working in a job now, where's the reliance on us, really? If we're so easily replaceable, we'll see ourselves as redundant. We'll see ourselves as replaceable. And if we're replaceable, in the end, we see ourselves as disposable. And if we're in the position like this where we can't hold on to a steady job that we're going to grow from, then that leads into the next thing, which is the housing market. And you can say it's a housing market crisis now, but I say that the instability of the market has been going on for so long. It's not just a crisis. It's not just something that happened because of a little bit of reckless spending. This is something that's been going on a long time. This is something that's been done on purpose. We all know that, the stock market and cryptocurrency can be manipulated. Why can't another asset class, like real estate, be manipulated as well? And I think with the introduction of companies like BlackRock, Vanguard, buying up such huge portions of residential real estate, so much to the point that there's a shortage in housing. And because we've seen the quality of labor, the quality of construction quality suffer, right? A lot of the homes that are coming up now, are really not just up to par to what they used to be just 30, 40 years ago. Some of the best houses that I'll see when I go into people's houses are usually going to be ones that are 100 years old. The house that I just bought has been recently renovated. It was built in 1939. I love this house, right? This is a stable house. And I find myself very fortunate for being able to own a house because I know that a lot of people aren't. I know that for a lot of people now, owning a house is a dream.
And what is owning a house tied into? More usury. I mean, even the whole concept of buying a house. 30-year loan, you pay for 21 years of it. Something bad happens, can't pay it. Well, the bank takes the house. They take the 21 years of the money you've given to them, kick you out, give you the middle finger, and resell the house for more. And it's a churn. I mean, it is the biggest scam in this entire world. That's why they price them so high. They want you to, pay them, for 15 plus years, and then they get all your money. It's like renting. It's really just like renting. And they made so only very, 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 very small few people can actually do that now because they don't want you to own anything. It's a whole satanic culture of greed. Worshiping Satan and worshiping the money. They're fearing God. You think any of them fear God? No, of course not. They want to delude themselves saying there is no God, and they're gonna get what they want out of it. In a God-fearing country, they say it is on it. No, this could happen. Because they'll be like, no, this is definitely principles God wouldn't want. But, like every Christian on it, they take all the things that are satanic and pagan and so on, they turn it and own it and keep it to themselves, and they love it. They love every minute of it. Because they don't actually want to live a God-centric life. That's why I love Allah. I love Islam, And I know that my reward will be in heaven, and I define myself as I walk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sunnah of the Prophet, and how I treat my children and make them grow.
And it's a distant dream. The old saying is that a person is meant to be the king or queen of their castle. But what happens to a society when people no longer have the ability to have their castle? Growing up, getting a job, getting a house, starting a family, this used to be kind of a fundamental part of the progression to reach the American dream, the progression of life. In any culture, that would be it. But now, the requirements to get into the job market, the requirements to actually buy a house, to get a mortgage are so high that it's practically priced out multiple generations of people at this point. And the question is that going to get better? I think the answer is obviously no. There's no way it can get better, and it's not meant to get better, and that's what I'm saying. The price of housing is inflated, yes. But because it's inflated, does that mean that it's going to come down? Is the value of the dollar going to go up? That's only relative to the value of other currencies. The real value of homes is much higher than it actually is because the devaluation of the dollar. When you only see 20, 30% increase in home prices over the past few years, a lot of that is being artificially suppressed. and buy high interest rates. People look to the new administration coming in and saying that, oh, they're going to cut interest rates. Oh, it's hot. But the fact is, once we cut interest rates, a lot of people who've been sitting on the sidelines are going to flood the market. And it's going to increase demand. And with the increase of demand, people are going to be charging higher prices for their homes. So we're going to
Interest rate. I wonder what happened if they were, I don't know, ban interest. Ban interest, drugs, alcohol, the corn industry, gambling, alcohol, all those things. Completely different America. No sexual perversion, all of that. But no, they talk to most Christians and they'll be like, absolutely not, man. I need that. I need all of that. All of it. Hey, most Christians worship football more than they do God. So I don't know what they expect is going to happen.
We're going to see the rates. So we're going to see home prices go up again and again and again, just like we saw a few years ago. It's the up down, but it's a trend. At no point in history has it reversed. You might get like a flash crash where, opportunistic people with the means, to act and get homes can get homes, but it's going to be really just what you're talking about, 5-10% decrease in prices. Once the value of these homes is realized, then attaining a home is no longer just a dream, it's a fantasy. It's an absolute fantasy, because at that point, the requirements to actually get a mortgage is going to be if you have an income of $200,000 or something like higher, maybe. So what happens when you have a population and they can't own a home? There's no place for them. If they're perpetually renting, your dream of starting a family, your dream of what life is supposed to be, has fundamentally changed, and it's been taken away from you.
What is life supposed to be? Quran simply states, my life is supposed to be a life of worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and following the sunnah of the Prophet. There you go. My life is supposed to be. When you put all of your baskets, all of your eggs and baskets in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your life is going to be what Allah wants your life going to be. That's a fundamental difference. Somebody in Islam and these Western values on there. Because everything what your life is supposed to be, it's always about some type of money, gain, wealth, and sometimes family. But that's if you're conservative. See, it all goes back to it's the same nonsense on it. Just like, no, I want to be able to do that. Now talking about it, it's mainly just wealth, money, and so on, but never about what's really important, what is your walk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And the kind of resentment that comes with that has consequences that have to be paid eventually. Right? And I think people are very tired of seeing people at the upper end of things, have not just financial control, but moral control over their lives. Rise up and say anything about any of these institutions and count yourself a traitor, say you're not patriotic, or they call you a communist, or they call you a fascist.
I don't care.
There's a whole bunch of descriptors that are going to be thrown on you whenever you challenge the system, or whenever you point out its flaws.
Or
the fact is, if you're an American or you're in the greater West, you're suffering. You're suffering, and you shouldn't be. So you've eroded the value and the concept of family, right? You've taken away people's ability to identify within the community by whatever job they usually would be. And now you price them out of home ownership. So this leads into the fourth thing, which is lack of ownership. And I think that this is one of the most defining aspects of this generation, the lack of ownership. And
yeah, because the purpose is they don't want you to own anything, because they want to control it. They want to own people at the top want to own everything. They want to own everything because it's about greed. It's about worshiping the shaitan. It's about worshiping God, money, and not God. So they want to own everything. They want it, which is odd because they're gonna die anyways. But they want it anyways. That's what greed is. They want it anyways, even though they can't take it with them when they die. So they want all of it. And then when they're worshiping this false god, nothing else matters. They don't care about life. They have no concept of the value of life at all. They don't care, if a million people starving in front of them makes them $1 million, they will gladly do it. I don't know if you understand. People on the top, they don't care. People are just devoid of a soul or anything. They genuinely don't care about life at all. So people need to understand. And trying to appeal to something they don't have, it's not gonna work. That's why you just gotta put your forehead to the ground, call on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the true ownership of all. He owns everything on it. He is the one that ultimately is going to decide on where this wealth is going to. Ultimately, he's the only one that decides.
We remember the WEF said something on the pamphlet saying, "You'll own nothing and be happy." We've moved into that era. That's not something far away in Germany. That's something here, right? When everything is rented, everything's leased. We're a country that's in debt. Whether it's student loans, whether it's mortgages, whether it's car loans, car notes, they call it now, which I don't know why. We're a country without ownership, and that has so many consequences. Because if you can't own these things, then you own no place in your country. You own no part of America. America is no longer for you. Your country, your nation, your community isn't for you. So what responsibility do you have?
It's not for me.
For your country. They say that the rates of enlistment in the military are very low. If people have no skin in the game, if people have no way to measure themselves or define themselves, why would they put their lives on the line for that country? Why would they? So this isn't exactly a left or right thing, and you can look at it as a classist thing, which it absolutely is. But the fact is you have a vast majority, a super majority of the people who've been absolutely disenfranchised. They've been dispossessed, they've been displaced. And the consequence of displacement is going to come eventually. And we can talk as much as we want about population decline and things like that. But people exist within a system. Once quality of life goes up and you start putting economic restrictions on people's lives, or you put an economic governor on people's lives that stop them from progressing like they normally would, there's going to be a crash, right? There's going to be an adjustment, and that can be from revolution, that can be from voting, the rise of populism. That's what this is really coming from.
But at the end of the day, it would all lead back to that again. That's the part you're not talking about on it. Populism and so on, that's technically how Hitler won on it. Populism and so on it. But it's like a circle. It's like a churning on it. Because unless Allah and His law is the defining thing, it is what you define yourself on what Allah wants you to be, following His law, then nothing from outside can change that because it's something that's already set in stone. The immutable, Quran. That's it. It's got the Sharia law. It's God's law. Can't change it. Doesn't matter what your opinions are. Oh, I don't like this. Oh, here it is. It's not based on anybody's opinion. It's not based on I don't like it or not. It doesn't matter. Like any of that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you like or don't like. When you have a system that is based on what I like and I don't like, well, then things change. Then you start twisting the knobs on there and move things around. But when all that is based on God's law, then you can't. You can't. That's why there's no way to reform Islam. And that's why it's so perfect.
The rise of populism is a response to all these things, in my opinion, my humble opinion. Because I think it's a natural part of that biological mechanism of in being a human to have some kind of say, right? To not just be led and guided, but to actually want to participate and want to be part of something, want to have a feeling of consequence in your lives. That all the work that you've done actually means something. Not just to your direct family, but if you're living within a community, a country, a nation, a state, that the work that you put in has meaning. In the military, we say that every person is a cog in a big machine, and is like, kind of horrible as that is to hear in the first part, because it makes you feel small. It only takes one cog to mess up, to throw off the machine. And there is a bit of importance in that. They used to say bullets don't fly without supply. And it's a silly thing, but there is truth to it. Everything serves a function. Everybody serves a function. When you have too many people, and when you've taken away the importance of the jobs, and you've taken away the importance of identity, within jobs and within family, you've taken the ownership away. You force people to react. And what we're starting to see now is people reacting, whether it's riots, populist movements. Now we're seeing things happening to CEOs out there. You have a powder keg, right? You have a pressure cooker, steam's leaking out, and it can only get worse, really, because there's no intention. There's no intention to make things better, because to make things better would require some damage to the economy. It would require a loss in profits, and this is a country that's controlled by corporations. That's what America.
Controlled by debt, controlled by money, controlled by greed, controlled by shaitan. Yes. So yeah, there's no way. It's never gonna. And not only is it never gonna get better, we don't know what the outcome is. It's gonna happen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, eventually all this will end. And all those things that people want to strive for and everything, all this money and stuff on it, you can't take it with you. It's such a futile thing for your identity to revolve around anything that when you die, poof, it doesn't matter. Instead of identity being, how does Allah see me? Am I, working to be better as a follower of His? And how do my family see me as well?
America has become. It's a country for profit. And without that ownership, I think that comes with the last thing, and that there's no common narrative anymore. There's no common narrative on what it is to be an American. And I think that we're starting to get this in other cultures as well. But I think America is kind of the tip of the spear with this one. The absolute segmentation of populations into competing ethno groups. And we're really starting to see different ideologies canonized into religion. The groups, they balkanize themselves and they separate themselves from the greater society. It's a focus on the hyphenated American, to the point where there's no solidarity. There's easy manipulation and corruption because, we're moving back into kind of a tribal big man culture.
That's pretty much happening with the Ummah. The segmentation of it, that's something that the West did to the Ummah, and the Ummah absolutely grabbed. They're like, oh, we can, let's indulge in all the sins, because that's what they want. A lot of them, most of them, they want all the sins, man. Just like the Christian, they can't get enough of it. Oh, alcohol, and that's why they can't come together, because they love to sin. People love to sin, and yeah, but then hey, eventually. We're gonna have to stand in front of the big man, and there's no excuses. Like, you can't excuse your way out of that one. You won't be able to lie about it. Your body won't not be able to lie. You're just gonna be like, oh no, yeah, I love to sin. I wanted to sin. I knew I was doing wrong. I wanted to sin. That's what's gonna come out of your mouth. Oh yeah, no, I knew what I was doing. Hey, just the way it is. But yeah, that's why the segmentation and it's almost like different religions. Religion of football, that's all they care about. Drinking, they go to church. It doesn't matter because there's a game on. They won't go to it. Like, it's just different little nationalism has become a religion. Somehow, Trump is a new messiah. They follow him somehow because that means something. I guess I don't know. Oh, you need to be patriotic. So why? Who cares? If this whole, I can't take my patriotism with me. They don't understand that because that's their religion. That's what they worship. They worship their nation or something. No, worship Allah. That's it. Only, that's it. That's where my loyalty is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why do I try to have loyalty to anything else? Loyalty in Allah means, and Allah tells me, okay, because you're loyal to me, your family, my parents, your brothers, your neighbors, ummah, those people you watch out, care for. There you go. That's what my loyalty is. There you go. Very simple. I need to be a role model. Got it. And that's it. That's what happens when you're actually a Muslim. Oh, no drinking, sorry. No drugs, sorry. No corn, sorry. No gambling, no interest, no usury. No sexual perversion. You don't have to wait. You have to talk to their parents. That's see how all those things do not turn into a destruction. It grows. It grows into a healthy community. It's simple. That the tools that we need to make everything useful is already in the Quran. The problem is that we love to sin. Love it. We love it. We love excuses. We love excuses. It gives us all the excuses in the world. That's why people don't want to accept it.
Not a country of common consensus. And I mean, that could just be because our population has gotten so big that the idea of a single body governing almost 400 million people
Islam
is ludicrous, because they're, very different people that might have existed at one point when we had a common narrative, And you can say that to say this is ethnocentric, but the reality is, America, you can say it's been ethnically diverse, and that is true to a degree, but mostly European. And European people, share a strong historical parallel with each other, whether that be religious, philosophical, the foundations of their civilization are usually
slavery. I mean, what they did to South America, the Caribbeans, Africa. I mean, like that share World War II. That's European. What are you talking about? And see, it's always about white people. You're just talking about white people. And really, religion? Which of the thousands of denominations of Christianity is it? Because they're all different. They all value things differently. They all say things differently as well. It's not the same. Unitarian, non-Unitarian. Which one? Which one is the common religion? Can't say, we all kind of live in the same thing. Oh, no. Is it the HGTV church or not? Could it be women priests or not? Do priests wear the cloth? Can they have children or not? See? See it, but you're talking about the common, and it shouldn't be. You're talking about segregation. See, you don't have the Sharia law. It says specifically in the Quran, no Arab is better than a non-Arab, and no white man is better than a black man. The only thing changes is how devoted you are to Allah. That's it. That's it. It is literally for everyone. See? It's nothing to do with race or gender. When you have, that's the, no alcohol, no all the things that are destroying the country as a whole on there. Your whole life revolves around worshiping Allah and keeping your family together and working for your family. That heaven is at the feet of your mother. I mean, that's Islam. Your neighbor is important. You as a person, as a role model, it's important on there. What can you do? Where you treat your animals, where you treat your cat. How a prostitute who, slaves to go into hellfire, he stops so a dying dog out of thirst on it, and with her own slipper give him water, and Allah said, "You know what? Heaven." I mean, just think about that. Europeans don't have that. Look at how the church developed through murder, assassinations, the bloodiest thing, one of the bloodiest wars on there. Look at that. Look at that. That's your culture. But you're saying that's what binds you? Just maybe I'm missing something.
Rooted in, the Middle East or the Mediterranean, and that makes to a very, unique culture. So the early colonies, was a very unique culture, and there was a story, and it started, with settlers and pilgrims, and there was, and it was a time of binary, a time of good and evil in the narrative, the grand narrative, and I think with
those settlers gave syphilis to the Indians on it. They eventually ended up into a ethno cleansing of the Native Americans. stealing their lands. Like, I don't know what. Why are you trying to bring that up? Huh? I mean, the Trail of Tears. Come on, bruh.
If I remember right, and don't hate on me, but postmodernism really came the destruction of the grand narrative, right? The focus on the individual story, and the power dynamic. And I think that this has really given us a loss of sense of self. I remember being in Giza and looking at the pyramids, right? Looking at this colossal architecture and being like, for thousands of years, you had families who walked by there and said, our ancestors built that. They did that. They made this thing.
Through enslaving an entire people and literally working them to death, where God had to bring immense wrath upon them through, we don't know who. Some will say the greatest prophet of all time, Moses. I just don't. And your ancestors didn't build that. Like, technically, we will say Jewish people built slaves. What are you talking about? Like the most god awful slavery in mankind. Oh God.
Or like growing up in the 90s, everyone had a relative who fought in World War II, fought in World War I. And even the stories of battles, that having our families all had skin in the game really kind of it added into that common narrative. That common story of who we are. But now we don't have that anymore. You can say, yes, it's a melting pot. And while I do agree with this, I think the narrative of what America was has died. I don't think that we can go back to that. I think, I'm someone who says, get what you can out of America, essentially harvest what you can from here and go somewhere else.
But when you're going somewhere else, aren't you then creating a melting pot? And aren't those people going, hey, we don't want your ideals, we don't want your views. We have our own, thingamajig. The same thing you were talking about. We have our own things that bind us, and your European stuff on there doesn't collide with us. See how the narrative is wrong, because then you're trying then to doing the same thing the rich people are doing. It's just extracting everything. So like, let me do the same, extract as much as I can, get money on it, and go somewhere else, and then push my quote Western values on them because I have the money for it.
Because this place isn't built for individual success in kind of a family way, unless you're on the higher end of earners. But I mean, you can get that other places, especially if you have USD. When I hear so many people immigrating to America and succeeding in a way that Americans usually don't, I think that the narrative has shifted. And America being a nation of immigrants, right? The idea of the 13 colonies, the idea of kind of this Eurocentric American identity.
Eurocentric.
I mean, it's just gone now. I mean, it exists in pockets, and I mean, it's romanticized, and it's, my family played a part in that for hundreds of years, and it's hard to let go. But every country's like that now, and we're just individuals, so we can rage on the internet about it. But the fact is that, the story of what it is to be an American has changed. But who does it belong to? Does it belong to the immigrant? Does it belong to like a person born in America? Does it belong to the corporations? Because at this point now, I think it just kind of exists. It just kind of belongs to corporations and to politicians. And it's sad to say, because there's so many people who love this country so much, and so many people who, for generations, have really paid into the system and have really done everything they can for America to become what it has become, just to be kind of usurped by corporate interest or by lobbyists. And of course, like I said, there's going to be a consequence to this. So these are really the 5 reasons that I think America is going to get worse. Because there's no answer to these things. There's no way that you can reverse these things and set them in a positive direction. But there's a large amount of people who are going to be left out. There's a large amount of people who are being ignored. And ignored people who are in debt, ignored people who are pressured, are dangerous people. And eventually things are going to come to a head. And honestly, I don't have a side to stand on anymore. The American I knew doesn't exist anymore, and it's never going to exist anymore. People who originally immigrated to America for pursuing a better life. And that's why I say, capitalize on capitalism while you can, and get out and find your happiness, find your best life, because I don't believe it's in America anymore. If you can afford it, it's here. But it takes a lot to afford, the kind of the traditional American dream in America just is too expensive for most people. Well, that's all I've got to say today.
Well, I mean, see his point, the whole Eurocentric. What does that even mean? Europe is completely embracing HGTV more than anybody else. So shouldn't you as well, as somebody who's Eurocentric as well? It's just and saying there's no turning back, there's nowhere to turn back. Yes, it is. It's Islam. Islam and the Sharia, Quran, Sunnah of the Prophet. That turns it all back. Why? It does away alcohol, gambling, all of that debt and interest and usury. It's all gone. uh, the way they do prisons, all the sexual perversion on there. It does away everything that is destroying this country as a whole. So yeah, I do believe there is a solution. Now, will people want that? Of course not. They worship a different god. They worship the god of money, god of football, the god of everything else except the one true God, and that's why they completely and utterly reject this. They like the sin. They like what it gives them, and that's why it slowly and early is going down and down and down. It's not going to come back. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. I'll see you next time.